Hello, thank you for watching Jared Hood from Jared Hood Sports Show. It has been a while, so I do apologize. If I learned anything from Kanye West, it's keep him waiting, right? If you like Kanye West, I guess you get the joke. If not, right now he's letting everyone wait, per usual, but for his album. Today, I'm here to talk about a variety of stuff because it has been a while. This might be a little lengthy video compared to what I usually do. I might break it up, put it out in some pieces. We'll see. I'm not the best production guy. If you're a producer, if you're good with this editing stuff, and you like what I do, maybe we can work together. I'll start off with, I guess it's the most controversial topic well, it's not the most, to me it's not, but to a lot of people it's the most controversial topic that I'm going to talk about today. But it's basically because people just insert their politics with it. I'm not here to tell you about go get vaccines, don't get vaccines. I'm not here to tell you if the NFL and the SEC and the NCAA um, um, are right for trying to push people to get vaccines or not. That's up to your own personal moral code. And if you talk to anybody in America or maybe across the world lately, it seems like a lot of people have a lot of different perspectives. So, where I'm here to talk about is the effects that this is going to have. Basically, if you're not vaccinated and you're a college football player in the SEC mainly, but other places too throughout the NCAA, or if you're an NFL player, you're pretty much, if you're not vaccinated, they're not trying. They're trying to make life harder than you. I mean, they're pushing people to be like, hey, if you get vaccinated, life's going to be a lot easier for you. They're kind of setting the same ground rules that they had in the middle of the pandemic when it was full blown. We're towards the end of the pandemic, so basically, um, and they're almost kind of making it like, listen, as a Phillies fan, I'm almost shocked that the Phillies don't take this whole attitude as one for all for one type thing. Like, hey, let's not get vaccinated because we agree if it's right or wrong. We got to get vaccinated because of the team aspect. This is my brother. I can't be the reason that we lose 3 games here because I missed 7. Like, I just the sports psyche of it. I'm not a psychologist. Like I said, I'm not pushing the vaccines. Just the idea of what I've seen my entire life when it comes to sports. This is one of the only times I can remember this isn't I got to do this for my team. I got to just, because this ensures me being there for the team. If I get vaccinated and pop up with COVID, I can still enter the clubhouse apparently, right? From what it sounds like, I'm not 100% sure about that, so don't quote me. Because every place has different rules, and I've read a bunch of them, and I don't understand any of them. I'm not a doctor or a scientist, and I'm out of all of that. You know what I mean? So the college football or even the NFL, just the football atmosphere in general is very much what I was describing. Where I'm shocked with the Phillies team not doing that. I genuinely do feel like a lot in those now. Individualism has stepped up huge in sports over the last 10 years, 15 years. So that is an aspect of this. This might be the first real big crossroads that we've ever had where people are making firm stance decisions, and it's not like for the betterment of the team. All right, even if I think it's dumb, let's do it. You know what I mean? So the rules are not any different than last year, but at the same time, they are because there's more available. So a lot of people feel like this is uh, um, people with power using that power. Now, I don't have many times where I'm like, hey, the perks with the job of the NFL, and this is just the NFL. The NCAA players are getting to this. Me happy about that. But moving on, the NFL mainly. The perks of that job, um, like a lot. I don't compare that job to my job, regular people's jobs. Because it's not. They're doing something different. They are especially are getting paid a lot of money. There's a lot, but they have a lot of perks too. So I look at it as the other side of it is like, hey, a lot of companies. The company I work for is not cornering people into it like this yet. Maybe they will. But there are a lot of companies out there that I've heard who is kind of the same. Like they're trying to make it as hard as possible for you to enjoy what you're doing while you're doing it because you're not vaccinated. So it's one of those. Look, the perks with the NFL job. If this is one of your bigger complaints that, oh no, you're kind of having the same issue that this warehouse might have, or this trucking company might have, or this whatever might have, and that office might have. Um, it's hard for me to feel bad for you because a lot of perks with that NFL job, and like, hey, I hear a lot of other people complaining about the same exact issues. So like, just get in line. If you're not going to get vaccinated, I'm not saying just deal with it, but like, what other choice do you have? Like, complaining to us about it is not going to help, and it's not going to change anything. And none of us, honestly, I personally think none of us should really care if the NFL players are mad that they have to get vaccinated or don't have to get vaccinated. It doesn't. I mean, there's so many other companies in the same situation that, like, hey, I actually feel for those folk who they can't take a year off or just retire tomorrow based off the money that they have in their hand from what they've been previously doing with this employment. Um, those are the people that I'm like, yeah, I understand your gripe, and I feel bad for you if that's where if the direction you're gonna go. So, I guess that's the best way for me to sum it up to talk about. I think it's something that does need to be talked about because I think it would be interesting if, and the reason I brought it up is because I think it would be interesting if teams do start to lose games, forfeit games because some players aren't they don't have enough players over the threshold vaccinated. Now they're forfeiting games. Too many players are gone. It just the whole snowball effect of it. And how it is an interesting part. It is something I think to watch looking forward. It might turn into a non-story. Everybody, every team in the NFL and NCAA might just go over the threshold, and even though there might still have that X percentage of guys that won't get vaccinated, if they all go over a certain threshold, it's not going to matter anyways. Um, and maybe that's what's going to happen. So I'm not, like I said, I'm not here to say if it's fair or not fair, right or wrong. That's not for me. But there is a storyline in effect moving forward. Now, something I can get really excited about talking about the NCAA football. The NCAA has basically turned their head so far the wrong direction that there might be that talk of a super conference might be on the horizon. I'll explain. Texas and Oklahoma, as of today, Monday, um, basically put out a statement, a joint statement, which, like, what is it? When the person you hate most makes a good point, right? Like, it sounds like they're in that situation together. Um, basically they're gonna not break the rules of what they have to pay and whatnot for the Big 12, but they're made it very clear that they're just not going to break the rules of what they have to pay. They're most likely like I don't it didn't say it in the letter, but they're out. They're out. That was the first step of them taking the steps out of the Big 12. The SEC reported. Now this is all speculation. I don't like to tread in the waters. Oh, excuse me. Of speculation and this that and the next thing. Excuse me again. Reportedly, the SEC reached out to like Michigan and Ohio State type thing. Maybe I think USC, maybe Oregon was on that list. I forget Stanford. There was a couple teams on the list though that they might have possibly reached out to. Look, and I just if you are a team with an opportunity to go to the SEC right now, I would personally think if you're the athletic director, you have to think long and hard about it at minimum. Even Notre Dame, and I've been on my horse yelling until Notre Dame has to be in this super conference that's around one day. Until they have to, there is no way that I think they're going to do it. And I still do genuinely feel that way. But if they pick the phone up and call you, which they probably have, I think you gotta listen because at some point you're gonna be playing in their ball field. So you gotta at least. I mean, I know Notre Dame has a couple of SEC home and aways already playing. They already did a couple with Georgia. They've worked with the SEC for a little while now. They have their foot in that door. I know that was. It's because it's called the Southeastern Conference is almost one of the biggest reasons they didn't go there and why they picked the ACC. It was the ACC and the Big Ten the whole time because of location, but the SEC would have had a chance if they just weren't called the Southeastern Conference. I genuinely feel that way because Notre Dame, I don't think it matters where they're going to play. They want to play with the best. And the reason I say all that is because Notre Dame is their own separate entity. Like Texas makes the most money; they have a whole network. Um, Notre Dame plays all their home games on one network. Texas has a network where their whole athletic department is on. They make a lot of money. Okay. Um, but you start getting Texas, Oklahoma. Okay, now the Big 12, what are they going to do? They're probably going to have to combine with the Pac 12. So you look at, I just think of like any team, and somebody, maybe it was Dan Patrick today, brought up a good point of like I live in Pennsylvania, Penn State, if they were called. I mean, they have to listen, and honestly, it'd be a good move for a team like Penn State. Do you think you're going to get trounced early? Probably, maybe often, but the super conference happens at some point, you're going to be more prepared than everybody you're playing with. And I know that you're not trying to like you're already better than the Illinois and the Rutgers and the Northwestern, but at the same time, the Northwesterns and the Minnesotas and the Wisconsins and the Nebraskas do sneak up in there, and sometimes are better than Penn State. And Penn State's fighting with them for that, right behind Ohio State tier. You have a chance if you are any of those teams, including Penn State, any of the teams that I just mentioned, to be at least a step ahead so that when the Super Conference does come around, you already been playing the hardest teams for 3 or 4 years. Look, it could happen. I mean, dominoes could go fall fast. It seems to be happening in real time. We all know that the TV and the conferences basically run college football. That's why ESPN basically caters to 12 people that are on the athletic boards of these conferences or the ads of some actual schools. Like, if that's why, because they're the people who are going to have in their mind the betterment of the sport. Now, I think they should have a fan in there. I'm not nominating myself. I mean, I love college football. I'll nominate myself, but I think they should have like somebody like a different perspective. Um, Maybe next player, like Mike Golick used to have a bunch of good ideas, but change it every year. Don't do one person. I'm talking change it every year. Have somebody who's not making the money off of this as well, because all these people that are making a lot of money sometimes think what's best isn't always best because they're making so much money they're blind to it. I'm just bring somebody in there that is kind of just a fan, just watch it. They had Condoleezza Rice in there one time. I think think outside the box. I'm for it. I'm for it. But the super conference, I think eventually could happen where you get to 40, 60 teams, maybe 80 teams. 80 sounds like a lot. It is a lot. Hard to pull off. You're going to have to pull some teams up. You're going to have to do some shuffling. 60 teams is still a lot, but realistic. I do think you could have a 60 team power conference, just a national football conference of these schools. And I know a lot of coaches and people inside college football think that the bowl games are important. A lot of fans and a lot of the journalists and a lot of people like me don't feel that the bowl games are important. They are. Like, I don't want to discredit them in the sense of like I understand all the work that goes into them. I understand the value of them when like a team like Arkansas might get to go play in Arizona, or get to play in a big Rose Bowl every now and then, or whatever, what I mean. The SEC teams don't play in the Rose Bowl, but point being is now they can with the playoffs. But point being is like people get exposure in places and get the players who never get to put the pads on again, right? They get that one last experience. I understand the value of all that stuff, but at the end of the day, um, if money is driving everything, the way you're going to make the most money is put 60 teams into a conference, have an organized playoff structure, and get this done. Like, and plus, it'll bring back parity. I genuinely feel like if teams Hawaii and Boise State and Eastern Carolina or BYU, did any of them really have a chance? No, but they feel like they have more of a chance in that 60 team conference. Everyone can be getting paid better too, differently, whole separate than the NCAA. There's nothing that the NCAA can do about it either. They're already just standing by and watching. They're watching two schools dictate an entire conference's future. Look, Texas and Oklahoma being out of the Big 12 might be the end of the Big 12. Or it's going to be like a mesh of the Big 12 and the Pac 12. But the Big 12 and the Pac 12 had some teams that have made the college football playoff over the last couple of years. But realistically, and so have the Big 12. But realistically, none of them have ever had a real shot at winning the whole thing. And that's Notre Dame fan, too. They haven't had a real shot at winning the whole thing either when they've been in there. I'm not sitting here trying to, again, this is a 3-team race, mainly by 2. And you can usually see which one of those 2 is the best halfway through the year. I'm the biggest college football fan in the world, so I just want something. I want to make the attempt. Every other sport has had an expanded playoffs. I talked about this before with the expanded playoffs, and the expanded playoffs of 12 makes a lot more sense when you got 60 teams going. By the way, if the expanded playoffs in other sports have brought in more parity, it's impossible to argue. Um, Basketball never had parity, and look at where they're at now because 2021 sports has had just had more parity in general over the last 15 years of my life. So it I'm very excited at the opportunity of a 60 team super conference. I think that we are closer to it than I think it's realistic, and I never thought it was realistic. But seeing what Texas and Oklahoma did has made me start to think that this is an opportunity that super conference is coming. Um, if the SEC can pull in two more schools, now that they've seen how easy this is, just ask. It's probably not just that easy, but to us it looks that easy, right? But I'm saying if they could uh, look, the Michigan Ohio State is the most intriguing. It is the most to me the most intriguing. If you get Ohio State, Michigan, you got Texas and Oklahoma, you might as well just call it the Super Conference. And I said about all these teams, the one team I do want to address, Clemson's got to think about it too. Clemson's got to think about it. They got to. It's a harder path to the national championship every year, though. So I think that was why they wouldn't do it. I feel bad for Texas A&M. Apparently, they weren't even called. No one talked to them. I do feel bad for them. Their biggest and best draws were being the only ones to get LSU or Alabama or even bringing in Ole Miss. Like now, you're not the only one, and as cool as their stadium is, a lot of people are going to pick Texas over Texas A&M for the first trip as their SEC road game, and Texas A&M's got a cool atmosphere, a cool stadium, a good team, but I think most are still would still pick Texas or even Oklahoma. Oklahoma's a pretty cool place to see a game too. I want to see a game at every college football stadium I can one day, so I've not seen a game in either of them. Speaking of the Bucks, I guess I'll address that really quick. I didn't talk much during the finals at all. I don't know, a lot of stuff going on. Just didn't get to it. But the Greek Freak, he was as good as I mean, I was always back and forth on him. I was never sold on him. What can you say? I mean, he won the championship. Um, I could sit here and talk about all the injuries and how the path for the Suns to get there was kind of blurred. So, would have they beaten a fully healthy Denver, fully healthy Lakers? Who knows? They didn't have to play them. Whether they beaten a fully healthy Brooklyn team? Who knows? They didn't have to play them. Um, they played a not fully healthy Brooklyn team and beat them. So I could go through all that, and it's definitely there. But at the end of the day, in the finals, the Greek Freak became everything he's been advertised all at one time for the whole stretch. Um, and then he hit his free throws, as he put it, to win the championship. Which, like, he just you couldn't write that script any better. He went from just want to get my family here and do well to most improved player of the NBA to two-time MVP to I think he's an all defensive player at some point, all-star MVP, now finals MVP and champion. You can't write it any better. So good for him. I'm a fan of him. I love how he carries himself. He's the 50 piece, I know everyone laughed about that, but everything else to me is like as funny as that was. He's just it's everything else to me for him when he talks. Um, he pays homage to everybody. He seems to love and respect everybody. He seems just like a good, genuine dude. He's really easy to. He makes it hard to root against. I've said that a couple times about him. That's the best way for me to put it. He makes it hard to root against. So, congratulations to him. Drew Holiday was my favorite pre-process Sixer when they were in the playoffs there against Boston, and then they started the whole process. Drew Holiday was my favorite pre-process Sixer, as much as I love Iggy. But so congratulations to him. I know people are mad at like Chris Paul. Oh, Chris Paul had a really good postseason. I'm not even the biggest Chris Paul fan. He's first ballot Hall of Famer though. He's a really good point guard. He had a great postseason. Got to Drew Holiday, and Drew Holiday needed a little bit of time, but figured him out and then locked him down. And I know that he had some good games still, but Drew Holiday was he was on him. And Chris Middleton, look, I said it in a prior video. The thing that I thought the Clippers were missing was that they didn't have a guy like Chris Middleton, where Giannis was Giannis, right? We know what the Greek Freak's going to do. We understand how he's going to play his game. We know he can take over, and when he's playing at the height like he was there in the championship, and sometimes it might not matter. He probably could beat most teams right like that, right? But you still got your guy Chris Middleton putting up buckets, putting up 40 points, being the clutch shooter. And I said that's what the Clippers were missing. That they have Kawhi, right, but they don't have that guy that down the stretch. You know that's the guy that's going to hit the big shots, and he hit big shots. Turned a bunch of games around in the postseason at certain times, or hit game winning shots. The reason that they won the game shots. So well deserved. Well deserved for that organization. As much as there's a good jab between my Sixers and them back and forth. Um, look, Booker. I don't know. He was good. He put up 40 points, two games. Like again, I mean, I'm not like sometimes the other team is just better, and I think that's what the Bucks just ended up being bigger and better. Which after the first two games, I didn't necessarily see that coming. I was kind of thinking I thought it might go seven and that the Suns would win because I couldn't see the Bucks pulling anything out in Phoenix. That's what I said when I was talking about it because I wasn't sure. I thought Phoenix was really good. They could shoot really well. Look, that shooting kind of went away. Well, shooting didn't even really go away. They took less threes though because they were forced to taking less threes. I get on Budenholzer all the time. He didn't make a bunch of adjustments, but he made enough adjustments where he was pushing them to either make a deeper jump shot or pass it off. Like then they were doing all postseason. So um, I'll give that to him. I like DeAndre Ayton still too. I'm excited to see where him, Booker, and the whole Suns team go. Dario getting hurt with the ACL kind of turn around the series. Kind of. Might have had a bigger effect than people were talking about at least. All right. To me, the most controversial topic today. Rumors are swirling everywhere about my Philadelphia Eagles and Deshaun Watson. I had a moral dilemma on this for a while, and I've avoided it for a while because I was like, doesn't seem realistic. He's caught up in some stuff. Here's the thing: the caught up in some stuff doesn't seem like it's going to get settled anytime soon. It might get settled out there. There might be stuff happening that we have no idea about. I'm not involved in this. I have no. Nobody seems to know nothing, and I am as locked into listening to these people all day, every day. So I'm a person who doesn't usually want these players. So it's easy. Yeah, I mean, obviously, no, I'm not really looking forward to if the Eagles get him being the face of the Eagles. If any of this is true, and I'm not saying it is or it isn't. It's kind of hard to say it's not, right? I mean, it's a lot of accusations to not be true. Um, but he's denied it the whole time, and there hasn't been a settlement. So who knows? Not my lane. But what I can say is it's hard to justify to any fan base bringing somebody in fresh, and being like, hey, we know this is kind of going on in his background right now, but trust him to be the guy. Because if you're doing this, the Texans want a lot for him. I don't think the Texans are going to get what they're asking for him, especially with the current climate that he's living in. Um, he forced everyone's hand here, though. He comes to training camp. He told them before everything got leaked that he wanted out. They're like, no, 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 no. This happens. They're like, well, now we have like no choice. We got to get rid of you. We can't bring you back, pretty much. But he has to show up to camp or else he's going to get fined. So he shows up to camp. I don't know if they expected him to or not, but either way, it forces them to be like, all right, had a prepared statement for if he showed up to camp, and their prepared statement was, well, he still doesn't want to be here, and we're open to trading him, and here's what we want. like I said, I don't think they get what they want for him, especially with Aaron Rodgers hanging out there in the open market, which is just a whole nother dynamic to it. Um, the football side of it, it's a no brainer. And if the Eagles do it, it's because they're going because of the football side of it. As a Phillies fan, I don't root for Odubel Herrera. It's hard to watch him take at bats. I'm like, man, he's not going to do well. Man, he's not going to do well. He's not going to do well. If the Eagles quarterback is, somebody that I feel that way about, it's going to be a whole new moral dilemma that I've never run into before. I used to make the joke that the devil himself could be the Eagles quarterback as long as they win games, and now I regret that. I'm always going to root for the Eagles. So I will get that out of the way. It's not like I'm sitting here saying I'm not going to like root for the team if Deshaun Watson is the quarterback. It's just going to be a very, very hard process for me. The way it probably was for a lot of people with Mike Vick, because the way that I feel about this is how a lot of people most likely feel about dogs. And so I understand. I was younger at that time, so I didn't understand then. But as I've gotten older, I do understand. I listen. I still personally will have the conversation about Mike Vick. Not here though. It's between me and whoever wants to have the conversation. But I understand. February 2022 is when the civil suit's going to be up. So that's the other side of it. Everyone's in a weird spot till then. I said about how he forced their hand. I don't know if he even gets traded before then because you have to be sure about a lot of stuff if you're going to trade for him right now. Like, you cannot, I mean, you have to know what the NFL's plan is moving forward here. You have to know, like, no matter what happens, worst case scenario, best case scenario, you have to know everything in between. You have to know if you're going after him. The Eagles and the Dolphins have the most leverage to get him right now. Like I said, I don't think the Texans are going to get what they're asking for. So I think it adds more teams than just the Eagles or Dolphins. But I don't know. I wouldn't give up as much as they're asking for him because of the situation. And like I said, I don't know if I even really want him as the Eagles quarterback. As good as he is, I'll be the first to tell you. If we're just talking football, he might be top five. He might be, but um, we're not just talking football when it comes to him, and the rest of that stuff is enough for me to say, roll the dice with Jalen Hurts. And I'm usually not if we win 5 games with Jalen Hurts, then it's better than winning 10 with Deshaun Watson. But it might be. I don't know. I don't know, and I don't know if I want to find out. Aaron Rodgers to play. Okay. So we're kind of where, like, when I said at first, I thought that he probably wasn't going to be a Packer um, going into the season. I have slowly changed my mind over time to yeah. I mean, as the closer we got to training camp, the closer it was like, all right, they're just calling his bluff. So if he comes, he comes. If he doesn't, he doesn't. He's playing last year's contract. Right before I did this, there was a report coming out that said the Packers and Aaron Rodgers are going to work on restructuring his deal so that he can leave after this year. I don't know if that means Aaron Rodgers is going to be able to pick where he goes. I have no idea. But it's weird. They didn't go all in. I do think he hurt the franchise moving forward, which I think was his end goal. Listen, if you have a quarterback who's not as good as me and he's going to play quarterback for you, I'm going to make sure that he gets no more better assets than me while I'm walking out the door so that I let everyone know. Eh, Outside of that, though, and him having an understanding of where his future is, um, you know, the team still seem to go as normal, which means they're probably going to make a run at the playoffs, and we'll see. Last thing, because this is a long video, like I said it was going to be. Um, Phillies, look, man, and woman, whoever's watching. If you're still watching, thank you. With the Phillies, couple games back, my issue with this is they need too much now. Like now, it's not just a center fielder and a reliever. Now it's a center fielder, reliever, and a fourth or a third starter because you don't really know what's going on with Eflin. Howard on a pitch count, it seems to be hit and miss with the team, not really him on what they want to do with him about letting him go a long time. Velasquez, I've given up on that experiment. They haven't though. Matt Moore and Chase Anderson are both still in the mix. So like to me, it's like all right. Um, it's almost they have so many quarterbacks that they don't have a quarterback philosophy right now when it comes to that. Outside of Wheeler and Nola, there's too much going on with the rest of those guys that you're going to have to bring somebody in. But here's the thing: you also kind of have to bring in a center fielder. If you don't, like, they're not even trying to play Mickey Moniak. He was raking down in AAA, playing super well since he got called down. Gets called up. Tonight will be the third night that he's up, and he hasn't seen the field. Like, what's going on? Well, it hasn't started yet. Like, what's going on? Like, Odubel Herrera's getting another opportunity here. Put Mickey in. You got to figure out the center field situation. So if you already know if Odubel's your center fielder and you're going to trade for somebody, then just try Mickey again. Just because you have a couple days to see and he's right there, it bothers me. And that's not just because of the Odubel Herrera situation. It's because I genuinely feel like if you're not going to trade for a center fielder, then you got to figure it out in house and at least try to figure it out and don't just stalemate with this. In the reliever situation, there's plenty of relievers out there. Does sound like they're willing to go over the cap for them. But now we're talking, you need too many pieces, and what do you trade? Because outside of like Bryson Scott down in the minors, what do they trade? Um, I, I know a lot of boring baseball talk there, but they're not out of it. The Phillies are not out of it, but I also it's hard to say that they're in it too. And that it's kind of like a 500 pendulum one way to the next and back to the next and back and forth makes it very. I don't know if it's the right thing to do to go out and mortgage what is decent in the minor leagues of the future for what might not even really happen this season because they don't look like they're there. They're like minus 20 some runs this season, so like there's just a lot. But all right, well, thank you for watching Jared Sports Show.